right, so let's get started on our Flag Hoop 1 project. So as you can see here at the top, we have all of our stitches that we could possibly use on our Prim quilt block 1. We have the fabrics that we need. We have them pulled out already. If you did the Ready Set video, you have your flag block sign that we have here, our block guide, and our 2 fabrics that I need for this block. The rest is the background fabric and thread. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait to get started with you. How you read the instructions is we start on the top left and you go along. You'll notice that each block has a different color heading, and that's just so you can differentiate between the blocks as you're working through them. So we are working on Flag Hoop 1. The first thing we're going to do here is, again, just identify and double check which stitchable area you're using, that you're using the right file in your machine, and that you have your correct hoop size. Then we're going to come over to our hoop. It says, hoop the fused fabric PP and 1 layer of heavyweight tearaway stabilizer so that all 4 sides of fabric and stabilizer are secured in the hoop. In the image, you can see that there's the bottom layer of the hoop, the stabilizer, the PP stabilized fabric, and the top of the hoop. So I'm going to move this over and we're going to do that together. Now, I want to say that for best results, you're going to want to follow the stabilizer guides. We have tested this in multiple different machines and in multiple different sizes, and you're going to get the best stitch out if you are using the stabilizers. So I have the bottom part of my hoop down, then I'm going to put the heavy tearaway on top. This is my fused piece here, and I'm going to lay it on top. I want to make sure that I'm catching all sides of my fabric so that we have a nice even tension as we are about to stitch this block out. We're going to make sure it's straight, but don't worry because we're going to be trimming it afterwards as well. I'm going to press that inside, and I'm going to tighten up my hoop. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so we don't want our fabric to pull in here. We just want it to be a nice even tension. The next step that we have on here is step 1. So this number correlates with what you're going to see on your machine. Step 1 and step 1. You can see that it has a little dotted line here and it says placement stitch, and we have an image of what it's going to be. So we are going to do the placement stitch for the flag. Now this block is actually rotated in here so that it can fit in all the sizes of hoops. So that's why you're going to say, oh, what's happening here? This block is actually rotated, and the images will reflect that how it's going to show up in your hoop. So it's actually going to be rotated here, but don't worry, we're going to trim it down to the right size afterwards. Okay, so it's going to be, we're going to do our placement stitch with step 1 on our machine. See right here, there is no bobbin or thread spool like there is in some other ones. That is because this is a stitch that won't be seen. So it's not a top stitch. So you can use any thread color that you feel that you want to use. It's going to get covered up. I'm going to just choose a neutral one to use here. All right, so I'm going to take my hoop and I'm going to put it inside my machine. Make sure that it's set properly. Just for this video, I'm using a red thread here. I do want to say that just so that you can see it and it shows up okay, but you can use a neutral thread color here or any color that you want. All right, and then I'm going to just press start. I'm going to take this out each time just so that you can see what's happening here, but I have done the placement stitch on this flag block. This will be the flag block like I mentioned before. Here's the stitch out, but we are orientating it this way. The next step is step 2 on here. This is where you're going to take your II fabric and you're going to make sure that it covers the entire placement stitch. So the entire placement stitch is now covered by this fabric. Don't try to go too close and pull it over to reserve some fabric here, because what you want is a nice 1/2 inch on all sides of your placement stitch. And that's going to allow you to be able to hold on to the fabric and trim it, which we're going to get to in the next step. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for doing that. But you're going to want to have a 1/2 inch around all sides. If you want, you can washi tape this down or just make sure that it's laying nice and flat. And we're going to, again, go ahead, place it in the hoop and begin. Did you notice that on that stitch out, it actually did 2 different lines of stitching, so they are just slightly apart? That is intentional, and that is there to help you with this next step. So we have made this easy for you to have the best possible results. There are 2 slightly different, 1/8 of an inch less areas of that they're stitched out, and that so when you go ahead and trim it, we have that nice 1/2 inch all the way around so you can grab it with ease. But then here you're going to be able to trim it really nice and close. If you accidentally trim one stitch line, don't worry, because you have one that's just slightly on the inside as well. So now we have this next step that is called the trim step. Notice there's no number on this step, and that means that there's nothing to do on the machine. This is an action step for you. We're going to go ahead and trim that applique together. So I'm going to take this hoop and I'm going to use that 1/2 inch that I have there to hold on to it nice and taut and use the edge of my curved applique scissors and trim off as close as I can possibly. If there's any threads that are disappearing, I'll take those out. I like to just keep going, working flat on here. If you're trying to work inside of your machine, it's really hard to get super close, and you're going to get best results if you give it a little pull, not a hard pull, but just a little pull all the way through, and you are working on a flat surface. I'm going to keep rotating as I go. Okay, so I've come all the way around, I've trimmed. If there's any extra threads, trimming them now is going to be, you're going to be thank yourself later so that none of them poke through your cover stitches. But don't worry, because Lori Holt has beautiful like cover stitches that are going to make sure that all of those trim lines are completely covered up. All right. Moving on to step 4, we aren't covering this up yet. We are doing another tack down stitch here. So placement and then tack down stitch. Number 3 is first, and that is a placement stitch. And here we do the placement stitch for this bumblebee hive. And then we're going to go straight into the tack down stitch, which is going to be quite similar to what we did, the techniques we just did here. So let's take it over to our machine. And let's begin. I'm going to let number 3 stitch out. Perfect. So now I can really just leave it in the machine because I've showed you how to do one of these already. You can take your other fabric, which is your Y fabric, and you're going to place it directly on top. Remember, 1/2 inch around all the perimeters should be showing. So you really want to center it over that beehive block. I'm just going to check, lift up the edges here and check and make sure that I have room on all the sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and start the machine, and you're going to watch. Now you can watch and see those 2 lines of tack down stitches happening. And here on our little icon, you'll notice that there is 2 double lines as well. Super fun. Let's get going. All right, excellent. So now it's time to trim step again. So we have lots of room here to hold on to our fabrics. And again, I want it on a nice flat surface outside of the machine. And I'm going to begin trimming as close as I can all the way around. You can just turn and continue as close as you can. You don't have to pull hard. I just pull it so it's nice and taut. That way you can get nice and close and in. And because it's on a flat surface, you're not going to poke through your background piece. Good. Pull any loose threads out. Just check and see if there's any other areas that you want to clip in a little bit closer. Good. And that was our trim step. Okay, now the fun begins, everyone. So now we are going to go through step 5. This is a cover stitch. We are going to make sure we have thread color number 1. And if you are not sure what thread color number 1 is for your embroidery threads, all you need to do is head over to the Riley Blake Designs website. We have a link to a chart that can tell you a comparison of which thread is the most similar in the brand that you have to what we have here, just so we can make sure that it's matching your fabrics to a T. All right, so and a cover stitch, this cover stitch is going to go over top of some of the edges, but also have a little bit more detail you're going to see. And we call this a cover stitch because what it does is it covers this raw edge with something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a satin stitch. And in fact, this one is an embossed stitch that gives the look of some of Lori Holt's fabric designs. It's mimicking them to come into this cover stitch. So let's begin and let's watch what the machine will do with this thread color. I already have this thread color in my machine and I'm going to place this in and we'll get started. All right, excellent. So that was step 5 in cover stitch with thread color 1. Next, we're moving on to step 6, which is a fill stitch. And you will see the difference now. So one was covering up the edges, the other one is filling in a design, and it leaves the stars behind in openings. And you're going to switch your thread color to number 2. So I'm just going to take this out this time to show you. I won't take it out each time, but I just want to show you what this looks like already. So here it is compared to your pattern. We have the beehive. We have that cute cover stitch. We are going to do that fill stitch in there with our next thread color, which is number 2. So you can go ahead and change your top thread on your machine, and we can go and load this back into our machine to stitch out number 6. All right, so we have just finished step 6. So you can see how cute that is coming together. Next up, we are moving to a detail stitch, which is step 7 and thread color 3. So here we're going to do a slight cover stitch. So it's coming down and it's going to continue all the way down to make that flagpole. So we are calling that a detailed stitch. All you need to do is insert your number 3 thread color and press start again. Let's get going. Okay, and going right up next to the next step, so we are just following along on the steps on our machine, moving on to step 8, which is the cover stitch. Here you're using thread 4. So just note that there are 2 yellows coming up. One is a cover stitch that will go around the beehive, and note that there's a couple areas there is not going to be a cover stitch on, and that is intentional because it will be covered by a different cover stitch later on. So just to note that we're going to have the lighter yellow, which is number 4. I'm going to get ready to use that one, and we're going to change our threads, and we're just going to go right ahead and cover up that stitch. Excellent. I want to take that one out and show you those 2 spots. So you can see over here that there is no stitching in the top here and no stitch on the bottom. And as I was mentioning, we are going to cover those with a different color thread. So at the top here, we're actually going to use the next color. So for step 9, we're going to do another fill stitch, and this is with our number 5 thread. This is just a darker yellow, and it is the bumblebee's body. Super cute. So we are going to stitch that out, and you can see the beautiful design that's coming into play when we put these 2 together. All right, next up is number 10. So just check that your machine is on number 10. We're all coordinated together, and we are doing another fill stitch. This is the bumblebee's wings, and it is in color thread number 6, which is this white color here. So I'm going to go ahead and change that out. And we are going to begin together on this next thread color. Okay, let's get started. Now it's time to just take a moment and appreciate all of our work. Let's take a moment and just look at this together and just enjoy what we've already stitched so far. So you can see we've done a nice cover stitch and that it echoes the pattern that's on the fabric already. So it's kind of blending and pulling together. Meanwhile, all covering all of those 2 rows of tack down stitches. If you take a look at the wings and even the body, you'll notice some different embossing that's happening that really brings the bumblebee to life and gives it a great texture. It's just so fun, and I just wanted to point those out. The next up here, we are moving on to step 11, which is a fill stitch. It's going to be actually a different type of fill stitch, and it's going to be light so the embroidery doesn't feel heavy or too dense or have too much pull in it. It's going to just give a little bit of movement into these leaves, and there is some parts of the stitching that is actually going to connect those leaves together. Don't worry about those because in the next step, we will cover those as well. So it's just going to run from one design to the next as only where it is going to be covered again. If your machine does not have a trimmer in between, I've set mine so it won't, and I'll show you what to do. All right, let's put that back in the machine, and we'll move on to thread number 7, and we'll stitch that out for this fill stitch for the leaves. Excellent. Now I purposely didn't have this trim so I could show you what to do if you don't have it. So here you go. You can go ahead and trim that one jump stitch that happened in the middle. between the two leaves. Otherwise, there is another stitch that's joining those two together, that running stitch, and it will just stay there. So these are coming through nice and light and pretty exciting. They have a lot of sheen to them the way that the thread is running. Next up is a detail stitch, and that is the next thread color, number 8. So we're going to go ahead and change this thread color, get our hoop back into our machine, and stitch out step 12 on thread color number 8. So of course you can just keep going. I would flip the page and continue to go to the next steps, but I have that jump stitch, and if your machine isn't set to trim it, then this is where you would just trim it. So I'm just going to take it out and show you where that one would be. You can see it right here where it is. So I'm just going to take my curved embroidery scissors and just gently pull it nice and taut and clip it on both sides, nice and close. And there it is. Excellent. You can also trim it on the back if you want, and then it won't get caught on anything. Now we get to flip the page over and follow along in step 13. We're getting close. It's coming, it's coming. This block is coming together. How exciting. So we have a fill stitch, which is number 9. It is the darker of the two teals, and that is this thread color here. This is going to be every other petal. And so again, you're going to notice that it has a run stitch in between the petals, and that's just because it's going to get covered up with the next one, step 14, so not to worry about it at all. So we are checking that our machine is on step 13, that we have the right thread color, which we're going to load up right away. We're going to do a fill stitch that has a little bit of, again, movement and mimics the patterns that are in Lori's fabrics here. And we are going to go ahead and stitch out step 13. All right, moving on to step 14 for the next fill stitch. It is the lighter teal color in thread number 10. So we're going to go ahead and switch that out and press start on our machine on step number 14. Oh my goodness, everyone, look how fun this is getting. Look at that beautiful design and all the dimension that's happening. All right, so now is the time, if your machine hasn't done it already, to trim those 2 jump stitches from the last 2 colors. So if your machine has done it already, you are ready to continue. And if you need to do it, take a moment here to do it on the front and again on the back side. Okay. It's always nice to check the back of your work anyways every once in a while and make sure that there's no long threads depending on your machine and how you have your settings. You'll just want to keep your back nice and clean. Excellent. All right. So here we go. Look how cute that is. We are moving on to the center of those 2 flowers, which is step 15. In step 15, we are doing a fill stitch going back to color thread number 5. So going back to your thread number 5, you're going to choose that yellow to put inside. This is the same thread color that we use for the bumblebee's body. right, isn't that just adorable? That center of the yellow flowers, it's so cute. So if your machine already cut your threads, you can go ahead right on to step 16 and change. If not, we are going to just trim the front and the back of your threads. It's always good to just kind of tidy up your work at the back so that nothing gets caught in itself or nested, and you just kind of can take a minute and enjoy that design. Look how adorable and cute that is getting. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to stitch this with you. Just a reminder, we want to see your progress. So come on over to the Riley Blake Designs Machine Embroidery Facebook group and share with us. RBD and me, RBD and Machine Embroidery, me, M.E, and you can come ahead and share your progress. Moving on to step 16 here is that red thread color. I've already changed it. It is a new red. It is number 11. And this is going to be a fill stitch. This heart is going to echo one of these fabrics right here, and you're going to see how as it stitches out, it's not just a pure fill, it has that design of the fabric exclusively inside the heart on this bumblebee hive. All right, let's get stitching this number 16 with thread color number 11. Did you notice how on that design, after it did the beautiful fill, it does a line around, finishing off the design to give it a nice, clean and crisp look? Isn't that adorable and gorgeous? Okay, so exciting. All right, moving on to number 17. We have 2 more fill stitches left. These next 2 steps, 17 and 18, are both adorable and fun because it's going to make a little mini quilt block. They are going to mimic piecing that you would do for this star, but instead it's going to be done in thread, and even the center is going to look like a fabric. But let's start off with step number 17. This is thread number 12. And we are going to stitch out the points on the star block in step number 17. All right, so again, if you don't need to trim your jump stitches, then you can go on to the next step. But if you do, this is the time to do it. We have finished the outside of that little star. We've done the adorable little antennas on the bumblebee, and of course the opening for the hive at the bottom. Again, I'm going to just trim the back so it stays nice and clean, and we don't have any extra bobbin thread to get tangled or make a mess at all. All right. Oh, you guys, we're so close. This is probably my favorite stitch of all. This one is step 18, and it looks just like the ginghams here. So just like a gingham fabric, except it is in thread. So really, really exciting. We are going to go back and use thread number 3 from previous. And we are going to do this fill stitch to give the look of a gingham center inside of our star. Let's get started. All right, it's really coming together now. We only have one machine step left. This is a very important step. This is step 19, and it has a crosshairs symbol, and it says crosshairs. don't worry, this is going to be a very large stitch, like a basting stitch that is going to go down the center of this block. You're going to need this crosshairs to get the exact measurements and get perfect trimming in the steps following that we're going to do outside of the hoop. So go ahead and use whichever thread you want to. There's no thread at the bottom here. I'm going to just keep the same thread in here, that number 3, and go ahead and stitch out number 19. Okay, and that is your block. We are going to pull it out, admire our work. Ah, so beautiful. You can see that faint crosshair coming through here. All right, now it's time to take your block out. Nice and carefully, I'm going to move this out of our way. And we are going to do the next and final steps to prepare it for later down in the quilt. All right. So the first step here, it says remove from the embroidery hoop, which we just did together nice and carefully. Now the second step is carefully tear away the stabilizer. So you're going to keep the crosshairs there, flip it over. This helps that you've trimmed throughout so the back is nice and neat and clean. And because you have a heavy tear away, you're going to just tear away this stabilizer from the outside of the design. Just be careful. I like to do it on a flat surface. When I pull, I actually press down on my embroidery along the edges so that it doesn't torque them or pull them at all. And I just pull pieces off at a time. I'm going to go around the whole outside of the design in this fashion. Again, I like to keep it flat on a table and just work my way around the outside to start. Once I have that out, now I want to get all this tear away from the inside. You have a couple of options here. This is a pair of quilty hemostats, and you are able to use that. I love to use it because it kind of comes right in there. It has a blunt edge at the end, and it really helps to kind of just like get underneath something and pull things out from the side. So I really like to use that. That's one option to do. The second option that you can use is this cute little bird stiletto. So it's also great for just sliding in underneath where maybe like can't always reach, and then you can just use your thumb to anchor it and pull away. So either of those options are fine. And you're going to just work at pulling away all this extra stabilizer that's inside. That's going to help you get a nice soft look of a quilt. And later on, when you sew it together and you take your quilt, if you're going to quilt it or take it to the long armor, then your designs are nice and soft. All right, so there we are. I'm going to pull that back. Now to clean up my work, because I don't want any like threads showing or anything else through my design, I'm just going to trim not too close, but just anything that maybe kind of came slightly out or loose. All right, now we're going to place this block carefully face down on your pressing pad. I have my pressing pad here, and one thing we like to use is this Jill Lily pressing pad, and I'll explain to you why. Here's a good tip and trick. So I just lay it out on top, and it's really, really soft and dense. And so when you place your gorgeous, all these embossed stitches down, face down, it kind of lets the embroidery like absorb into there. So you're not like pressing it and squishing it, but you are going to get rid of some of these crinkles in your design. So you're going to take your iron and you are just going to press and hold, and again and press and down and hold, and just work your way along the design. One thing you don't want to do is like pull the design away or separate it at all. It's going to distort it and stretch. So just kind of work through the design and going up and down and pressing as you go. All right, and once you're satisfied with how you've pressed your design, you can put that away. I'm going to move this off our table. Oh, this is super exciting. Now, it's really nice to do this final step now so that you have everything ready to go when you do get to the setting or the assembly instructions. So here, number 4 says to center the crosshairs of your block using the appropriate size Lori Holt Q Cuts Trim It ruler, centering the block from side to side, top to bottom, and following the measurements below for your chosen project size. Trim the block. We're going to use those crosshairs as a guide as well. So here it says flag block trim size. I am making the 6 by 10 stitchable area, so I need the 6.5 by 6.5 trim it ruler. If you're using the lap size, you're going to need an 8.5 by 8.5, and the throw size with the 9 by 14 stitchable area is a 10.5 by 10.5. So here we go. It's really easy to follow, and I'm going to show you how fun and easy it is. There is these lines which are, guess what? Exactly like a crosshair right on the ruler. Plus you can see the seam allowance you're going to be inside your seam. So you know that anything that's in the blue, if you have design in that blue, you need to shift it over because that's going to be in your seam allowance when you sew it together. Here's your crosshair that you stitched out so you know that your design is exactly in the center as it's supposed to be. And so we line up that crosshair just like this. And I have that 6.5 inch ruler. So I'm going to hold it down and really take my time. And I am going to cut it with my rotary cutter here and pull each piece away. Careful that you are measuring twice and before you cut. I'm going to flip this around so that I don't pull or torque it in any way. And again, reposition my crosshair and the edge of my ruler. And again, just checking that everything's in the right spot before I go ahead and cut. And my last cut. All right, so I'm putting all of those away. And my goodness, it's so, so, so cute. Now we're going to gently remove this crosshairs basting stitch. You can start at the top here and come from the front, or you can go from the back, whatever you prefer. And you just do it very easy and gently. You don't have to pull them too hard. And you can pull them out the design. If you just give it a little pull, you'll see the bobbin actually comes up a little bit. Then you can pull it one stitch at a time. You don't want to, after all of this work, pull out your design. You can also, I'll show you on the other, the horizontal version, you can also opt to do it on the back, but unless you changed your bobbin thread to a different color, it might not be the easiest thing to see because I'm using a white bobbin thread, so it might not be the easiest one to see. So again, this is the same method we're going to do for every block. So if you prefer to pull it from the back, maybe we would change our bobbin thread right before we do that crosshair stitch. Okay, now that I pulled out the bobbin, this is coming out so easy. There we go. Love it. All right. So I'm going to take my block and I'm going to place it right on my design board, and it's ready to go and waiting for the next step for this block. But right now it just says your flag block is complete, label it and set aside. So again, the block labels that you had from your cutting, this is going to come in handy again. So I know this is obvious that it's a flag block, but not every block might be that obvious with the name. And trust me, you're going to love when we just say pull this block together and put it in your setting that you have everything labeled. You can go ahead and pin it right to your block, or I'm going to pin it to my design board here. And I have this ready to go when we are at our next steps. So let's take a moment and enjoy our work that we just did together. Isn't it wonderful?